A month ago, I made my first tier list of the year, and since it's been a month, it's now time to get on to the next tier list. Since then, we've seen the release of 2 new cookies, and they have changed the meta quite a bit. But they aren't our only changes, as there just have been some natural evolutions in the meta. Now, before we start, I do just want to say that this is not a tier list based purely on strength. While a cookie's performance is very, very important, it's not the only thing to take into account. You have to consider how you have to build them. Are they expensive to build? How many copies do you need to pull for them to be good? What game modes are they viable in? How good in those game modes are they? How do they compare to the other cookies that are kind of like them? Now, these aren't the only criteria, but it should give you an idea of how I am ranking these. Remember, this is a value tier list, not a performance tier list. But while I am saying that, performance will obviously be the most important factor. Like always, we are going to start from the bottom and go up. Looking at the D tier, nothing has changed. I am still considering moving up Werewolf to the C tier because he actually did just get a buff, as his bleed can now be stacked on top of each other if there are multiple werewolves in the team. But he hasn't shown himself doing really well in any game mode yet, so I can't really make the change. And unfortunately, both Angel and Ninja are just as useless as before. While Angel is an alright healer, their heals are very mediocre and their buffs are very mediocre compared to the top options. And unfortunately, Ninja is just an elemental tag, as his damage doesn't exist, and nor do his debuffs, because he has none. While you can get away using these if you are new, unless you are new, you really should stay away from them. Anyways, moving up to the C tier, we actually have a little bit to talk about. We actually have some new faces joining in the tier list with Rye Cookie, Crushed Pepper Cookie, and Chamomile Cookie. While I really did want to keep them in B, unfortunately, they just have too many issues. Looking at Rye Cookie, she is at the top of C tier because she still is a okay DPS at the end of the day. But unfortunately, she lacks a proper identity and doesn't perform really well anywhere. Every other epic tier fighter actually excels in an area, even if they aren't the best in it. Unfortunately for Rye, she's just mediocre all around, as her single target damage is kind of bad and her AoE damage is bad, and it's like, oh my gosh. We really need to start a rework movement for Rye because, oh, she's struggling. As for Crushed Pepper and Chamomile, unfortunately, they're just too niche. Both of these cookies don't actually provide any buffs for their team, and that's just like really concerning. While both of them can actually provide buffs through equipment sets, that's just not good enough. Crushed Pepper is placed higher because one of his promotions does actually provide fire damage to his teammates, but that still does not compare to every other support that is higher on this tier list. And Chamomile has it even worse because she doesn't even provide damage. She is just a healing bot, and that just is not that valuable. Now, they are good at their jobs of being sustainers, but that's it. And unfortunately, that's kind of niche in this game. Unless we have a return of Sugar Rush, these two are staying down here in C. As for the regular denizens of this tier, Gumball, Pistachio, Gingerbread, and Muscle, they are all staying. Gumball is still a burst tagger, a water burst tagger, I should clarify, and he's not higher up on this list because he is only used as a water tagger. He doesn't have any flexibility being able to use in modes like Infinite Labyrinth because he just isn't good for that. So unfortunately, it's not really worth voting him unless you plan on maining him for mono element champion raids. Pistachio is in a similar boat to Chamomile and Crushed Pepper, as she is a shielder for light cookies, but she doesn't really do a whole lot besides that. While her 5th promotion does increase the light damage of allies, it's just not good enough considering you already have Lemon, who does everything light needs. Not to mention, she can't really use any good support artifacts because she is a slash cookie, which is a little unfortunate because she could be okay if she could use other artifacts, but she can't. As for Gingerbrave has 2 dashes, which is pretty good for speedrunning, and he can kind of be used for some of the earth-only modes, but there really isn't much to say, just he's alright. Muscle Cookie can be used as a very big burst shielder for solo modes, which is very convenient, especially for something like Extreme Boss Challenge where survivability is needed. Now, he doesn't provide any actual buffs, which is why he can't be placed higher, but he is staying in C because he does serve an actual function. Looking up at the B tier, the only change is that we are bringing Sugar Globe down because she has just kind of fallen off. The reason why she was as good as she was because she was the #1 cookie for champion raids. But after a month, that's no longer true. Unfortunately, she is just simply useless outside of boss-based modes, which is a very big issue to have. And I know I said strength was the #1 factor, but the fact that she is just flat out not usable in half of the game's modes is why she is down here. So you really only want to build her if you need a super duper strong cookie for those solo modes, but even then there are still better options. Moving on to Malasauce, she is pretty much like Gumball, except she can be used in a couple more modes. She is the dedicated fire tagger and debuffer, which is, why she is where she is. But her ultimate has off-field AoE damage, constant AoE damage, and it's pretty solid for some modes. She can be used as a cherry replacement in Labyrinth, and you can get away with using her in some of the guild battles. Now, besides that, she doesn't really provide anything unique, which is why she is in B tier. No, her fire res reduction is not unique. Dark Choco is still a very solid cookie. While he is going to struggle in some boss-based modes, he can be comfortably used pretty much everywhere else, especially Infinite Labyrinth, where he can use his big AoE burst damage moves very well, and he is oftentimes necessary for a lot of weeks. But he is not an A tier because he is kind of restricted in that aspect. And he's also not above Sugar because he still isn't used in every single week, but he's used in enough to be up here. Twisted Donut is still a pretty solid tagger. Again, like Malasauce and like Gumball, he is the dedicated Earth tagger, except Candy Drop exists, so Twisted Donut does not need to be used as much. He has okay off-field damage and can sometimes be used in Infinite Labyrinth along with some other modes. Generally, he's alright. Chili Pepper is a weird scenario because she isn't actually bad, but she is completely overshadowed by another DPS who does what she does, and some. While if you use Chili Pepper, you aren't going to struggle immensely, unfortunately Jalapeno, who is staying at SS, spoiler alert, is just much better than her in every single aspect. Chili Pepper doesn't actually have much to make her unique, besides the fact that she can kinda heal herself and that she has some iframes on her special skill, but that's literally it. Moving on to the A tier, we have one new addition, and that is Cream Soda is being brought down. While she did maintain her S ranking in the last tier list, unfortunately she is just not as good. While she is still the Ghost Captain holder for mono water teams, that's about it. Now, again, she is still used in a lot of Infinite Labyrinth, but now weeks are kind of mixed between both her and Icemint. When I made that tier list, it was mostly Cream Soda. Now, she is still a very, very good starter cookie, being very easy to build and being very low promotion friendly, but unfortunately, she is just kind of falling off in other aspects. Next, we have Cherry Cookie, who is still very solid for Infinite Labyrinth. Cherry Cookie is essentially usable everywhere besides those boss modes because she doesn't do a whole lot against bosses, but she does a lot in literally every other scenario. She is one of the game's true sub DPS, having massive off-field damage, which, is very good, especially for modes like Infinite Labyrinth. Not to mention, she's a common cookie, so it's very easy to max her out, and she has a very, very friendly set, being Fire Demon. Overall, pretty solid cookie and definitely a must build for Infinite Labyrinth. Now we have Kohlrabi, who might actually be a little bit better next patch once we get the introduction of the new Dark Tagger, which is exciting. But generally his problem is that he just doesn't excel anywhere. Dark as an element was super strong for a long time, but it's kind of fallen off. Only thing that Kohlrabi has that really stands out is being able to abuse the heck out of tags. So until we get a tagger that excels with tags, wink, wink, he's staying down here. He can be used to clear bosses quite easily because he's very, very, very easy to play, but he is the opposite of promotion friendly, requiring his 4th promotion in order to be properly usable. But if you have him in his 4th promotion and you decide to build him, he's a very solid DPS. Generally, you can't go wrong with Kohlrabi if he's at 4-star promotion. Then we have Sting Durian, who despite the release of Frost Rock, who we will talk about in a little bit, is still pretty solid. He's still a must use in a lot of Infinite Labyrinth weeks with his high AoE damage and his ability to abuse tags as well. While he does struggle a little bit against bosses, again, the fact that he's able to abuse tags makes him very, very strong. With the only condition that you need to have him at, I believe it's his 4-star promotion as well, or no, it's his 5-star promotion. So that is a little rough, but generally he does perform very well. Basil Pesto is a little weird. He's the only cookie to truly get nerfed, which is kind of sad. While he does have really good AoE damage, Wind as an element is currently the worst element in the game, and his single target damage is also very, very not good. Sure, he does it better than Rye, but Rye just is horrible, so that's not really much of competition. Him holding the position of the best wing DPS is like taking candy from a baby, so not really an accomplishment there. But he is very promotion friendly and is super, super good for Infinite Labyrinth, especially because he pairs up really well with Plantain, who is like the GOAT for Infinite Labyrinth. Then we have both Alchemist and Wizard, who are here for the exact same reason. They are both off-field taggers for their respective elements, who function as both the elemental tagger and as a really, really good Infinite Labyrinth DPS. DPS. Alchemist is slightly higher because she is used a little bit more often, but they're both relatively good for the mode. Hey, if you found the video enjoyable so far or helpful so far and you haven't yet, you should totally like and subscribe. My current subscriber goal is to hit 5,000 subscribers before June, and if all of you do that, then I know we can make it. It takes a second out of your day and costs you nothing, so just consider. Okay, back to the video. Then we have the S and double S tier. Unlike before, I am going to talk about both of these tiers at once, so get ready. Before we start fully talking about them, we first need to actually arrange them in the proper orders. So, first of all, we have the addition of Frostrock, and he's a very interesting DPS because Earth is currently the strongest element right now. Wink, wink. So, we are going to put him right here, and we are also going to bring Icement up, Blackberry down, and Honeybear all the way to the second best cookie in the game. So we are going to start with Blackberry. Why was Blackberry moved down? Well, the answer to that is she is no longer special. While she was the only all elemental res shredding support, she is no longer that. With the addition of Honeybear, who does shred all elemental resistances higher than her, she kind of lost her big moment. Now she still is the best support for dark teams, and she is still used quite a bit in Infinite Labyrinth, but she did lose a lot of value not being the best universal elemental res shredding support. I doubt she will drop to A unless we get another one, but let's give it a while. Now, Plantain is still there because he is still the GOAT for Infinite Labyrinth. If this was an Infinite Labyrinth tier list, he would be like SSS, but this isn't. While Wind as an element is struggling, it's not entirely his fault, so that's why I'm not going to actually lower him because he's Wind. But the main reason is because he has really unique utility that no other cookie has, and that is grouping utility. He also has a speed boost and can reduce enemies' wind resistance, and he has high burst damage. Even if one aspect of his gets, replaced, or power crept, that's the word, he's still going to be pretty good because he just provides so much value. Now, he is limited as a tagger because, he's a wind tagger who reduces wind resistance, but that's okay, as you're building him for Infinite Labyrinth in the first place. Now we have Lemon Zest and Icement. I chose to put Icement above Lemon Zest because Icement has just been doing very well. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that Cream Soda is still actually used quite a lot, Icement would be higher up on the list, but she is still used, so yeah. Ultimately, Icement has been seen in essentially every single mode, which makes him very, very strong. Unfortunately, Lemon Zest is still kind of restricted to not champion raids, which is why he isn't higher. If they ever find a way to make Lemon Zest meta again, then he will probably, be higher up on this list. Now the new cookie, Frostrock. Now, Frostrock is very interesting because if I had made this tier list like a week ago, he would not have been S. And that's because they hotfixed him to fix his 5th promotion, so that way the damage over time can stack if there are multiple of them. Now, he has just been performing very well in essentially every place besides Infinite Labyrinth, but I actually do think he will find usage in there eventually, but just not right now. I believe it is Earth is now the highest scoring mono element team and is one of the highest ticket burning teams, aka just rainbow element teams. He's a very strong DPS who is pretty friendly to build. He has a couple viable sets, along with being able to use an artifact that essentially everyone has, Opportunity Strikes, very well. And I can't state enough, this guy is just very, very strong, especially against bosses. Now, Rockstar is still here because he is still a very, very strong attack tagger, but he's not an S because Peach kind of just replaced him in that aspect, at least for every element besides water. And also he doesn't properly come online for water until his 5th promotion, which is kind of crazy. Anyways, looking at SS, Jalapeno is staying the only fighter, but I'm considering dropping her even though she just got there. She's ultimately a very strong tagger, but she's no longer as strong as he was with the introduction of Icement. She's usable in literally every single mode, and I mean, fire is still probably the 2nd best element, which is very good to know. And it can only get stronger because they still need a better tagger, so just saying. She has good AoE, good single target, good range. She's not too hard to play, but she does actually have a good rotation you need to learn. She's pretty build friendly. She's promotion friendly. She's pretty much everything you want in a DPS. Just she doesn't excel as strong in some areas as someone like Icement or Frostrock does, with the benefit of being a really good all-around character. Now we have the 3 supports, Peach, Lemon, and Honeybear, who, is now the best, I guess, support in the game. Now, Peach is a good attack buffer for every element and is a staple in the Infinite Labyrinth meta because she can hold the Encore Performance artifact. Actually, the same thing is for every assist cookie who isn't like Angel. Now, Peach is the lowest on the tier list because outside of her attack buff and outside of holding Encore Performance, she doesn't actually do a whole lot. Sure, you place down your little attack circle and you can heal up your team with your Peaches, but that's about all she's limited to. Ultimately, they can just release another cookie exactly like that and Peach would drop down to S. Not to mention, she actually comes online for Fire at her 4th promotion, not our 5th, meaning she has an edge over Rockstar. Looking at Lemon, he is definitely one of the more controversial picks, but he stays a staple in Infinite Labyrinth meta. As long as light DPS are meta in Infinite Labyrinth, Lemon is going to stay meta. Not only is he a massive buffer, but he himself does some decent off-field damage with his ultimate. While he isn't as good a universal buffer as some of these other supports, that really isn't necessary, as he just does provide that much utility for Infinite Labyrinth, along with having the bonus of being able to be used by some DPS outside. Now, Honeybear hasn't found as much usage in Infinite Labyrinth, but he was used last week. His ultimate is absolutely insane, having a massive radius and has pretty good damage, along with the effect of debuffing them by a crazy ton. Not only that, but his shields are actually good, which is a little insane, though you do actually have to hit your abilities on your teammates, which is the only downside. He is also the buffer for Frost Rock, which is one of the stronger DPS in single target scenarios, meaning, he gets that extra little boost. Generally, Honeybear is going to be the best support in the game right now because he is just a universal debuffer, a universal supporter, and is just good in every mode. Even if he isn't used this week in Infinite Labyrinth, everyone has their off week. And lastly, we have Candy Drop, who I don't think needs an introduction. Good AoE damage, good single target damage, is a universal debuffer, is a tagger, good on-field damage, good off-field damage, pretty promotion friendly, pretty build friendly. She is literally just everything you need in a tagger and a cookie. If you have her and you haven't built her, you are playing the game wrong. Sorry to say. Either way, that is the February tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think some cookies should be moved up, down? Do you think I undervalued some cookies? Just let me know your thoughts. Also, don't be like this guy. Be respectful. If you guys enjoyed, like and subscribe would be very appreciated. Also, remember to go join my Discord server and go follow me on Twitter. Okay, bye-bye.